We can now speak to former US official Bijan Kian, who joins us from Los Angeles. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining me. So Donald Trump says the killing in Iran has stopped. Trump seems to have changed his rhetoric on Iran in the last few days. What does this mean for the protesters? He promised help was on the way.
Well, good to be with you. It's all very confusing. And, if you know President Trump, you know that there are two things about him that we must all remember. One, he doesn't like people to read his mind. He constantly is shifting from one position to another. And if you've read his book, The Art of the Deal, he is negotiating this way. He escalates, he backs down, he retreats, he comes back strong. But what he does next is not known. The protesters are expecting the people of Iran to take full credit for this revolution. In my view, Islamic Republic has no chance of survival. I listened not to President Trump this time, but the German Chancellor, who has said the Islamic Republic has no chance of survival. It's unfortunate that the second thing about President Trump is that he may say things like, they've told us the killing has stopped on good authority, but I don't think he believes exactly what he hears from people who've been lying and cheating for 47 years. So President Trump, in one word, is unpredictable. And this is frustrating for people on the street. It's very frustrating. I believe the perception is that President Trump is going to come, change the government and replace it with a new government. That is not going to happen. We've been very consistent. We've said consistently that every country follows their own interest. And President Trump and the people of Iran, the United States and the people of Iran have a common interest, and that is to remove the menace of Islamic Republic from the people of Iran, from the region, the Persian Gulf, and the world as a security threat. So there is a shared area, but to expect President Trump to change the government and replace it is not something he would do. He will serve America's interests in any way he can, using all the tools available to him. Now, having said all of this, how do we balance this conflict, this double talk? Well, there's a lot of movements. There's a lot of movements and military movements, and as we've seen, we should not take any indication all the way to a conclusion. We just have to see what President Trump wants to do. But this revolution is not President Trump's revolution. This is the Iranian people's revolution. They own it. They have the right. They have the responsibility. They're going to fight. They're going to win. They are not going to leave this government alone. Almost 80% or more of Iranians don't want this regime. They have said that loudly. They have been moving together in a very harmonized way. And the killing has continued because the regime is so afraid that people are going to win. They're not afraid of America as much as they're afraid of their own people. And it's because they have nothing to lose, Leigh-Ann. They have nothing to lose. They have been fighting and fighting, and they will continue this fight all the way to end.
But
because they can see.
But Bijan, I just wanted to just ask you a question. You say they have nothing to lose, but we don't know the exact numbers of the death toll, but around 2,400 people have lost their lives. As I said, there's been an internet blackout. It's difficult to know that exact number. And there are reports that the protests on the streets of Iran have stopped. And that's because the killings have had such a chilling effect on society. So there is concern that these people will lose their lives if they do continue to call for change.
Leigh-Ann, you said yourself it's very hard to get information from Iran, and yet you speak with some confidence about some numbers, and you refer to what you hear from Iran. Who are you talking to? If you talk to the people, they will tell you they don't want this regime. They will continue this fight all the way to the end. And revolutions are like spring weather. They have moments of surge and moments of quiet. Remember, this is unarmed people fighting for their lives. When I said they have nothing to lose, I meant they must accomplish what their goal is. Their goal is to remove this government, and they're going to do that. And they have the support of a unified voice and a unifier. I think Prince Reza Pahlavi has done a great job. 47 years, and we didn't see this scale, this level of togetherness on the streets. Millions of people are coming out because they are fed up. When I say have nothing to lose, is like their money has gone down to almost no value. If you throw money on the streets of Tehran, it probably takes more cost to clean it up than to pick it up. The money's value has gone to almost levels that you cannot afford living a normal life in Iran. So how could this continue? How can this government claim that I'm going to continue killing until people give up? That's not how it works. When I say people have nothing to lose, it's a matter of paying their electricity bill or buying bread. That's a difficult situation. I don't believe that's sustainable. So to say that the protests have died down, everything's okay, and I can understand, every country has their own interest, and the lobbying that goes on in these cases is just amazing. People of Iran are not just fighting against armed oppressors who killed them. They're also fighting against those who hold their own interest. Who's talking for the interest of the Iranian people? Their own government doesn't, and the neighbors, everybody follows their own interest. So at the end, I think that principle remains that no country is going to do anything for another country unless there is a benefit for them in doing so. And that's the rule. And you asked about how the people feel. They don't feel so good about that. But this is their revolution. They should expect to finish the job. And if others come and help, that would be great. This country, my country, United States of America, 250 years ago, was fighting a similar situation with a mighty, empire, British Empire. And, who came to their help? Lafayette, Rochambeau, and people like Kosciuszko, the Polish general, the engineer who came in and helped them. So help is welcome. People of Iran are appreciating that. This coincidence of interest is something that they welcome. But to expect another country to come and sort of finish the job is neither realistic nor something they should. Nonetheless, this is the emotion, very emotional moments. People are getting killed and they're saying, who is our voice? Why aren't we heard? Why is it that people rely on, on authority? They said killing has stopped. Why don't they listen to us? It's very frustrating.
And I just want to ask one quick question.
The good news is you never know what President Trump is going to do next, no matter what he says.
And I think that is a really interesting point, because I think a lot of people are holding their breath at the moment. And you're right to say that, because we never know what the next move is. But in the last hour or so, the US has imposed sanctions on Iran, on security officials and banking networks. They accusing them of orchestrating a violent crackdown on the peaceful protesters that we've just been talking about. So is the aim here, you spoke to me about the cost of living. We know inflation in Iran is running at somewhere between 40 and 50%. This is why the protesters started, because of the weakening economy and how difficult it is. So will these further sanctions from the US make that even more difficult for the people living in Iran?
Yeah, you have a corrupt system that doesn't matter, with or without sanctions. This corrupt system is stealing people's money systematically. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. People of Iran are fed up. You said they are angry at prices and devaluation of their currency. I don't think that is accurate. It is not accurate. There's never been a cry louder than we don't want this regime. I don't understand why outlets, consistently misinterpret. What is it that you guys don't hear? Don't you hear the people of Iran not wanting? Don't you see people going to the streets to get shot? They're giving their lives because they don't want this regime. And you casually say, oh, they're just complaining about bread. They're not. They are fed up. 47 years of ineptitude, incompetence, corruption, brutality, tyranny. The fabric of the society is torn apart because of this tyrannical government. They don't want it. Please listen to them. Talk to the people. You talk to the regime officials and expect to hear the truth? from people who've been lying and cheating for 47 years, and you take it from them that on good authority, as President Trump said. Now, when President Trump says it, I don't get really upset because I know President Trump may look one way and hit another way. So, but when the media repeats this, that this is people complain, no, people don't want the Islamic Republic. And I know some countries in the region want the Islamic Republic to stay, as weak as it may be. But people of Iran don't agree with that. So who's going to win? Who's going to win? 90 million people or the outside interest? I think everybody's going to follow their own interest, including people of Iran. They will fight and they will win. And this is the spirit on the streets today. Millions of people saying, we don't want this regime. And what they want is a free election. They want to have the ability to elect the kind of government they want, the people they want to see in power, the people they trust. And, you know, I understand that this may not match the interest of many other countries and entities that may have conflicting interests. That's fine. That's the reality of the world. The question is, whose right is it to determine for the people of Iran what kind of government they should have, or if the whole world should help? You know, got to remember, history will judge the reactions of everybody. People of Iran are getting killed. And the reaction is, oh, it's going to be okay. They're fine. They'll be fine. I think history will judge that. History has judged people's behavior and countries' behavior.
Bijan Kian, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to leave it there because we've run out of time. But it was very interesting speaking to you. And like you said, we'll have to wait to see what Donald Trump does next. Thank you.
People are going to win. Thank you.
Let's get into this further with retired Commodore Chitrapu Uday Bhaskar, former military officer in the Indian Navy. Commodore, thank you so much for joining me. First of all, where does India stand in Iran-US relations?
India has followed the developments in Iran and expressed concern at what is happening. But it has not in any way taken a definitive position about either supporting the United States and US policy or denouncing the regime in Tehran. India has encouraged a peaceful resolution of the current turbulence and the protests that have led to the deaths of almost 2,400 people, as you had pointed out. But yes, India has interests as far as Iran is concerned across a wide range of issues. Iran is a very important regional country. Stability in Iran or instability in Iran would have an implication for India. That's on the geopolitical side. Iran is also an important energy supplier in the region. And any instability or disruption within Iran could have an impact on global energy stability and prices, which would have an impact on India. And India also has a large diaspora in that part of the world. And their safety and protection is the primary interest at this point, as we are looking at the protests in Iran entering their third week. So it is a wide range of interests as far as India is concerned.
And that's what I wanted to speak to you about, the diaspora, because India issued an advisory asking Indian nationals currently in Iran to leave the country at the earliest. But things appear to be calmer today. Where are things in Iran likely to go from here?
The latest reports seem to suggest that things are now, in a way, becoming less turbulent, less bloody, less violent than they were even a few hours ago. And the fact that US President Donald Trump has said that he is not contemplating a military strike, and that there has been some kind of a quiet below-the-radar negotiations, diplomatic negotiations between Washington and Tehran, seems to have calmed the situation, because contrary to what your earlier American guest had said. I have a different view, which is that the more the United States ratchets up the military pressure, it in a way allows the regime to stoke nationalism. Because despite the fact that the Iranians have been frustrated, angry with the regime for over 40 years, the moment you talk about the United States or foreign entities trying to interfere and seek a regime change, I think then the population rallies around the regime, and this has happened in the past. Which is why, looking at the developments over the last few hours, I would say that perhaps the protests are calming down and the regime in Tehran will speak to the people and try and address their economic and the inflation kind of situation that you had referred to in your remarks. And that perhaps, and I want to underline the word perhaps, there might be some kind of a lowering of temperatures all across Iran. But I do agree that this is unprecedented. The fact that mosques have been torched in an Islamic republic, to me, was a very significant kind of indicator, because I've been following Iran for many years. My first visit to Iran was in 1970, which is more than 50 years ago. And looking at what has happened over the last 4 or 5 decades, this is the first time that I have seen the people of Iran giving vent to their anger in this manner. And as I said, mosques have been torched in a large number across Iran. This is unprecedented. But the more the United States uses the military card, I think the people are likely to support the regime as part of the nationalist fervor. And this has been said so many times in relation to West Asia and many of the Arab and Islamic countries there. The US can effect a regime change. They did this in Libya. They did this in Iraq. But you cannot impose rhythm change. Iran is a very old civilizational state. I mean, recorded history of Iran goes back to the 7th century BC. We are talking about a people who have a continuity and a pedigree that's almost 3,000 years plus. And in this kind of a society, they yearn for a more equitable kind of governance. They are not going to give up on the Islamic orientation. And what happened in 1953 when the United States snuffed out democracy with then Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, the way we are now, there is a sense of deja vu. Is the United States really keen on supporting democracy? Or do they want another regime like the Shah in the past, who will be part of the larger United States and its military alliance in the region? I mean, let's not forget, when the senior Shah was there in the 60s, Iran, Turkey, and Pakistan were the 3 principal allies of the United States. There was no talk of democracy. They were called the RGC countries, bound by religion, geography, and culture. So I think when we look at the United States, we perhaps might want to step back and try and get a sense about what is the objective of the US and President Donald Trump in particular. Now, I know this has been said in the past, I say it again, that is it the Nobel Prize for President Trump? Is it a larger US interest in the region? Is it a proxy for Israel? Because Iran is a complex country. It's not Iraq. It's not Venezuela. It's not Libya. And unless there is some clarity about what is the US objective, there was one objective, which is to prevent Iran from getting the bomb. But we know what happened between President Obama's initiative and where we are now. So I think these have to be unpacked more carefully. But for now, I do not think a regime change is on the cards. The probability seems to have reduced.
Retired Commodore Chitrapu. I do apologise, retired Commodore Chitrapu Uday Bhaskar. We have run out of time, but as always, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.